From Tally to Cali,
It's time
to wake up.
Wake up! Wake up!
Warchant.com is your ultimate Seminole sports source.
And this is Wake Up Warchant, presented by Corner Pocket Bar and Grill.
One more corner pocket.
Now here's Warchant.com's Aslan Hajavandi.
And Corey Clark.
Wake up! What is up, everybody? It's Wake Up Warchant presented by Corner Pocket Bar and Grill. Coming up on today's show, are you f***ing serious? For the first time in the college football playoff era, an undefeated Power 5 conference champion is left out of the Final Four. Wake Up Warchant presented by Corner Pocket Bar and Grill, Tallahassee, Florida, cptallybar.com, the website, 2475 Appalachia Parkway, physical address, lunch specials Monday through Friday, 11 a.m. to 3 p.m., Somebody over at the Charlotte Seminole Club party that we were at on Friday, Corey, said that they like listening to the podcast because it reminds them of being in high school and having somebody read them the lunch menu on the announcements at school when I tell them the lunch specials at Corner Pocket. So
Nice.
Eat your heart out. Half-pound Black Angus all-beef burger with a side of your choice, the French fries, the curly fries, the potato chips, the tater tots, all that's available for you over at the Corner Pocket Bar and Grill, cptallybar.com, the website. And don't forget, tomorrow, trivia night at 7 p.m. Florida State, warchant.com, the ultimate Seminole sports source. Great little marriage. Check out our website. Check out our YouTube channel. Rate, review, 5-star, thumbs up. This is where I say something like silly and sarcastic. But actually, no, first, check in with Corey Clark. I don't know. I trust you're well, Corey, but maybe not.
Yeah, I've been better. That Sunday was a kick in the groin, and then when you went to your knees, you got kicked in the face. Yeah, I mean, all things considered, we're all living a charmed life, at least at Warchant. It's been an awesome season. Florida State is relevant again, but it all just took a huge, it just feels like you stepped into a ditch with what happened on Sunday. And obviously we'll get into it. This is the day. There will be other days to celebrate what this team accomplished, and I do want to do that. I wrote a column on Sunday. I don't want to lose sight of what this team did, but it just really sucks, and it's such a bummer that this is now what this team will be remembered for, and they didn't get a chance to go try to win it or lose it on the field. It was determined for them, which just isn't really the heart of sports.
All right, let's dive in. Let's talk about it then, Corey. Maybe I was guilty of buying into the narrative, which, by the way, if I ever joined professional wrestling, that would be my angle. I'd call myself the narrative. And I would dress up in that trench coat I was wearing on Saturday at the Charlotte Seminole Club and just be like, I'm a journalist here with my narratives. But I didn't expect this, but we talked about it on all the shows, all the preview shows, and I could see like these scenarios where maybe Florida State gets left out because they don't have Jordan. But on that night, man, in Charlotte, watching the team play the way they did with their third-string quarterback, figuring out a way, we're not going to talk a lot about the victory they had on Saturday because, we're really processing the news of Sunday and not making the college football playoff. But the fact that they were able to piece it together and figure out a way to move the ball enough to get past a pretty decent Louisville team is incredible, man. It's remarkable that you're able to figure out a way. And then defensively, I'm just like, all right, man, there's a certain point where I have to kind of surrender. Like, I love Adam Fuller, but part of me is like, man, who have they played? Offensive, like who's had a combination of good offensive line, good quarterback play, good receivers. But how many teams in the country have that period, right? Like Florida State's one of the few teams that has that. Maybe Alabama now has that, Texas maybe, but you're in that sort of group. But anyhow, to my kind of question here, Corey, there's parts of me throughout the last 2 weeks that kind of prepared myself for Florida State not making the playoff. But after the way they won on Saturday, I'm like, they've got to be in. But you for so long, I'm like, there's no way. I mean, this wasn't a 48-hour turn of about face for you. Like, you've been pretty steadfast. There's no way you could leave a 13-0 team out. So I think you're probably feeling a little bit more than me that maybe had in the back of my mind. So how have you processed that, just putting such a premium on winning, the goal of this sport, the goal of athletics, and then it not ultimately being rewarded as being one of the four teams vying for the ultimate prize?
Well, there's a lot of things that bother me about what happened on Sunday. One of them is, own up. If you don't think Florida State is any good without Jordan Travis, how the hell are they ranked ahead of Georgia? Own it, man. You can't tell me that 3-point difference on Saturday in the Georgia Dome or Mercedes-Benz Stadium, that's where you slide Florida State in there? They're just good enough to lose to Alabama by what, 2? But not good. They're good enough to beat Georgia, but not good enough to beat Alabama. But you have them ranked in between. Like Alabama beat Georgia by a field goal. I mean, what? It just either do it or don't. Like have Florida State 11th. That would have been easier to swallow, man. Than to say they were so close, but they don't have their quarterback, so they don't make it. Look, man, there's so many avenues and ways to go down this. Yeah, I'm stunned because it had never happened. I'm also stunned because I thought naively that it would actually be appreciated to go win games without your starting quarterback, to show you can do it. Like my mom, who knows nothing about football and is 81 years old, is like, we thought the fact that they won with their third-string quarterback would make them look more deserving of being one of the top 4 teams. It's like, yeah, Mom, because in the real world it does. But in this stupid sport, nope, they don't have their quarterback, so why send them out there to get their heads kicked in by Michigan in the Rose Bowl, which, by the way, would not happen. Have you watched this defense play football? Have you watched them? Would they beat Michigan? I don't know. They'd have a shot. They're certainly better than Iowa. They'd have a shot to beat Michigan. They would hang with Michigan. They would not be embarrassed by Michigan. Florida State's defense is elite. And who knows what they would have looked like with Tate Rodemaker as the starting quarterback for a month. But we'll never know, man. We'll never know, and that's what's so frustrating is that we will never know. They got robbed of their chance to go prove how good they could be. And if the season was going to end, it needed to end by like I said on the wrap-up show, Aslan, somebody great had to beat that team. It was going to take somebody great to beat that team, and now we'll never know because they were left out because the SEC has to have it. And that's where my biggest naivete came, is I didn't think that the SEC had to have a team. Right. I didn't think that was like an edict that, you know what, no matter what, the SEC has to have a team. But clearly it is. Why? I don't know. Draw up your conspiracy theories, folks, because there's a lot to draw up. I think it's absurd that for the last week we've had all these ESPN talking heads prepare us for this moment. Like they had the memo. They had the game plan of how this was going to happen. And I'm not convinced, honestly, if Georgia beats Alabama, then Florida State still might have been left out. It might have been Texas in that 4 spot. But I think this is what's so screwed up. I think if Georgia beats Alabama, like they should have, then Florida State is in. But somehow, because they had to have Texas in there, because they had to have Alabama in, there could not be a scenario where an SEC team was not in the college football playoff. So how do we do that? Well, we have to put Alabama in because they won the SEC champ. Well, you can't do that unless you put Texas in too because Texas beat Alabama. Okay, sorry, Florida State, your quarterback's hurt, so you're out. That was the reasoning. But no matter what, I don't know how. I don't really know why, because these games are going to get huge ratings anyway. Why? But somehow, some way, Sankey or the powers that be at ESPN decided, in my opinion, we cannot have a college football playoff without the SEC. So do whatever it takes to get the SEC in. Okay, Greg, we can do that. But if we put Alabama in, we obviously have to put Texas in because Texas beat Alabama. Cool, perfect. Blame it on the North Alabama linebacker. That's why the undefeated Power 5 team is left out. Crazy. Just crazy. Crazy.
Yeah, I still don't think you had to put – you talk about owning up to it. Like, all right, you think Florida State's not capable or able, push them further back. My thing is make up your mind on the Texas-Alabama thing. I don't think you had to put both of them in. Either stick to your guns and say that a head-to-head game in Tuscaloosa, albeit 2 months ago, still carries weight today, or say the fact that we're looking at the body of work. We're looking at what you did all 13 weeks, and right now, the way Alabama's played, we think is better than Texas, because surely Florida State deserves to be in there, having won every single game. And I like the way that Kirby, kind of threw a bone at Mike during their teleconference and saying that, listen, this is coming from a guy who knows winning all your games is really, really hard. And it's frustrating because that committee has guys on it that played the game.
Yeah.
That not only coaching, but played the game. So they not only you have coaches on there, like Chris Ault, who I think, was the guy that set up the pistol out in Nevada, that offense. You got Will Shields, a guy that, all pro that played for the Kansas City Chiefs. Like, these guys have been part of football teams. Like, they know how hard it is just to be able to get up every single week. That's the reason why Alabama is so, almost celebrates the fact that they are able to get up every single week, seemingly year after year. Well, hey, man, this year where we're grading and judging everybody on this season, the amount of crap that Florida State had to go through week after week, especially here this last month, why is that not being celebrated? But, I guess to your point, they felt the SEC had to be in because probably the television relationships, things of that nature, and then they had to throw Texas in there. But I never thought they had to put both in there. I thought they should have made up their mind on one of those teams instead of being like, well, let's just chop the knees off some guy that has nothing to do with this two-man fight.
Well, and what if Oregon had beat Washington?
Yeah.
Is Florida State out then too? Is that another one-loss team that's ahead of them? Clearly it should have been, right? If you think that Florida State can't compete because they don't have their starting quarterback, then there should be 12 teams ranked ahead of them. I just think that's such a bizarre, frankly, asinine way to look at sports is who they don't have. What the game might look like is why we're going to put these 4 teams in, because we want these games to be as competitive as possible. Well, then at that point, let Georgia and Alabama play again. That was a close game. It was a fun game. Let LSU and Ole Miss play. That was an awesome game. If you're just looking for competitive games, but if you're looking for the teams that deserve it, which is what it always should have been, it never has been, which was idiotic to begin with. It should have always been best resume instead of just best. But they get to cover their bases like this. And I think I can't fathom somebody like Chris Ault, who has been a head football coach, would not appreciate a team that went undefeated. Yeah. And when they lost their starting quarterback and then their backup quarterback, still went and won a game with everything on the line. That should be appreciated and applauded, not dismissed and not taken into account in a negative way. It should have only been a positive. Look at this
zombie.
team.
Florida State is a zombie team. They will not die. They will not go away. They keep losing all these limbs, but they keep fighting.
And that is a great trait.
Yeah.
That is an impossibly good trait to have, is you don't give up and you don't give in. And when something does happen bad to your football team, like a horrific injury to your starting quarterback, you respond anyway, and your defense plays out of its mind. So I looked it up, Aslan. Since the Jordan Travis injury, Florida State's defense was on the field for 38 possessions. 38 since that injury. They gave up 1 touchdown. And it was after the Akeem Dent personal foul on 3rd down. So I just want they gave up so essentially 0 touchdowns on their 38 possessions since the Jordan Travis injury. So please miss me with all the bullshit about how they could not compete in a 4-team playoff. That defense is out of this world. I know Michigan's good, man. Ain't nobody blocking 55-5. It doesn't happen. 11's good. Wait till you see 14 if we ever get to see them. That defensive line is a playoff defensive line. That is a playoff defense.
Championship caliber for sure. Absolutely.
It absolutely deserves it. And the unknown is what would it look like with Rodemaker at quarterback? We don't know. He got
or
1
Darrell
week
Jackson
to practice.
playing,
So that's what it's like. Usually those things are celebrated when a team finds a way to win, and when one side of the ball is struggling, the other one picks up its play. That picking up the slack, finding ways. That's all stuff that we've been celebrating forever in sports. And in this instance, and there's part of me, man, that just thinks it's BS. They came up with there is not a small percentage of me that thinks that if Jordan Travis had played last night and they would have won 38-6, they still might have been on the outside looking in, and they would have come up with a different reason, because that narrative was already starting to form after the Miami game. They were already being asked questions about, I know Florida State only beat Miami by a touchdown, it was Boo Corrigan that had to be like, yeah, but that last touchdown was nonsense. They controlled that game. They were up 14. I think there's a chance, man. They could not, for some reason, they think. I just think the SEC had to be in. It's one of the 3 Power 5 teams would have been left out, so they could get Alabama and Texas in. And even if Jordan Travis is an excuse that they can use right now. But I don't think that. I just it makes no sense, Aslan. It makes no sense, and it makes you not really like the sport. I am not in love with this sport right now. I am so irritated and frustrated with it. And it saved me a trip to Pasadena. I don't have to fly, and that's how mad I am still that this happened, man. It goes against everything that sports is about. It just does. Like, you're telling me Florida State was kept out of the playoff because Auburn can't defend a 4th and 31? Is that it? Is that what everybody's telling me? That's nonsense. That's crazy. Because I can tell you this much, old Milroe would have been on his ass if he had a 4th and 31 against Florida State because he wouldn't have been able to sit there for 12 seconds. Burst would have slung him into the crowd. But anyway, sorry I'm cussing so much. You probably should bleep those. It's a family show. It's a morning show. But, yeah, that's how fired up I am.
All right, well, kind of a decent segue to, I think a lot of people.
Vitamin energy? Oh.
You need a vitamin energy mood over there, big guy.
I know, man.
But no, it opens up, I guess, probably the second part of this, which, is somewhat rhetorical, but I guess probably yes is the answer. But, they're going to go to a 12-team playoff. I don't know if that will fix this sport. Is it going to fix a sport that is broken right now? Or do we take any solace in the fact that it's only broke for one more year here for 2 more months?
Well, yeah, and I saw that a couple of people tweeted that, like, that's not great for Florida State coaches on the recruiting trail to say, look, you can come, that's what other schools will use to recruit against them. Like, you can go to Florida State and go undefeated and you still won't make the playoff. Well, no, that you can't use that because they certainly would make the playoff next year if they're undefeated.
Yeah, 6 highest conference champions and then 6 at-large teams.
Yes.
So they won their conference on Saturday night.
In.
So
they'd be the 11 seed probably because they don't have a quarterback. They'd be on the road. And the committee be like, hey, we let you in. What are you complaining about? So, no, I think it's a horrible one-off for the last year of the 14 playoff. I think it got it horribly wrong in the first year. I think it got it horribly wrong in the last year. At both times at the expense of Florida State. Once they made them go on the road, which was absurd, and then this one they're left out completely. All because we don't know if Tate Rodemaker is good or not. He had, 25 passes in the swamp to prove to. So what if he'd? So I guess it mattered if he would have gone 18 for 24 for 240. Would that have mattered?
I don't know, man.
And what if he'd have played in this game against Louisville and they'd have won? Because I think if he plays in that game on Saturday night, look, Florida State, it became quite obvious they could not throw the ball at all. Like that was. They had no chance to move the ball through the air. That kid was not ready for the moment. I think he's going to be good. Clearly, it was a little too fast and too much for him. We get it. I also think he got banged up there in the second half. He wasn't 100% healthy because he's a Florida State quarterback. Why would he be? Meanwhile, Milroe is a bionic man, and Jane Daniels runs 200 times on the year and doesn't get hurt. But whatever. It's those soft SEC defenses, apparently.
Yeah, clearly.
But so – if Rodemaker had played in that game, I think they win 30-6, at least. I still don't think they're in, Aslan. That's how cynical I am about the whole operation now. Right. I still don't think they're in. I think those committee members, I don't understand how they could come up with that. I don't think – because you're right, it's not like secretaries and office workers. It's people that lived in sports, that know athletics. And yet they came to the conclusion that a team that went undefeated, that scheduled tough games, was less deserving or not the best of the 4 teams. Alabama was better. Great. Texas was better. Sure. I saw Alabama need a miracle against Auburn. That's what I saw. And I think I'm just of the opinion that if Georgia wins, they make Florida State the 4. Do you think there's validity to that? That like Georgia losing made them have to put Texas in because they could not put Alabama in unless they put Texas in.
I'm with you if Georgia wins, Florida State's in, but I don't know if it's through that logic. I don't know. Man, that's the cop-out.
But do you think Florida State would have been the 4 either way and Texas is the 3 either way? Because I think it's reversed. I think Georgia wins. I think Florida State's the 3, and I think Texas is the 4.
I've been on record. I thought Alabama was going to make it ahead of Texas this whole time.
I'm saying if Alabama lost.
Okay. Well, yes, correct. At that point, it's number 1 Georgia, number 2 Michigan, number 3 Washington, number 4 Florida State.
But then because they didn't, Texas leaps them.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
No.
Anyway, sorry, I still haven't got my voice back either.
The sport, its soul. I mean, I've seen. I mean, a lot of my friends are just. I hope it's reactionary, but I'm kind of afraid it's not, Corey. I mean, maybe the 12-team playoff, though, will bring everybody back, at least, up at that point. But just there's so many people that are like, love this game, love this sport, and are completely over it and have like every right to be. And that's what really sucks.
It reminds me
I don't know, because this sport, I'm sorry, Corey, but like, this sport has been so imperfect for so long.
Yes.
But there's something about this, for whatever reason, that just feels different. Maybe, I don't know, because it's affecting Florida State. Like, if they would have been left out in 2000 and not played Oklahoma, if Washington or Miami got knocked ahead of them, I don't know if I'd feel the same way. But I know there's just something about this sort of, maybe to your point about talking points seemingly being made and momentum shifting in conversations and narratives. But there's just something about this that rankles you and just really does not sit right. At least me.
Well, look, man, I don't think if Milroe had gotten hurt on that last play against Georgia where he fumbled but recovered it, if he had banged up his knee and limped off the field or got carted off, Alabama's still in the playoff. They get the benefit of the doubt. They wouldn't have said, hey, man, their starting quarterback's hurt. They got no chance. Alabama's still in.
I don't know. I don't think so.
If Carson Beck got hurt, but Georgia won, Georgia's still in. I think maybe yours is different. I don't know, but there's
Penix too. I think Penix.
There's no precedent for this.
Yeah.
But I think the difference with me when it comes to Penix, and I think you're right on that, I do think Washington is a one side of the ball team, and it's based largely on how good that quarterback is. Florida State is so much more. They're not the Florida State Travises. They're good everywhere. That defense is exceptional. And that defense would give them a chance in every game they have. And they have 2 good receivers. They have a good tight ends. We didn't get to see them the last 2 weeks, but you would hope with a month to prepare and a game plan to get ready for, those wide receivers could exploit anybody's DBs. And it came like, okay, if you lose Jordan Travis, you're done. And I just think that's an insult to the other 84 guys because there's some really good football players on that team, man, that did everything they were asked to do. And, you talking about your friends, it reminds me of, boxing back when it seemed like every other heavyweight fight was rigged. And it's like, well, that guy dominated for 9 rounds, but I'm going to stop watching boxing. And guess what? Eventually, people did kind of stop watching boxing.
And boxing was a sport in this world, in this country forever, man. Like it was.
Yes, and a huge
fights. Yeah, man.
Yeah.
Fights are big.
And so that's the problem with it. But I think now this is coming at the perfect time because, yes, I think if it had stayed 4 teams, then, yeah, I would believe that people would be like, well, screw this stupid sport. But knowing that it's going to 12 teams, knowing that if you win your conference, no matter if you're 9-3 or 12-0, you're in. That's what this sport clearly needed. This year, it is needed for other years. I will say what bothers me almost about as much as anything, Aslan, other than actually Florida State getting left out, is who they got left out for. If
you're fine with Michigan and Washington, right? The fellow undefeated club members.
And honestly, I know this is weird, but it's like if Florida State had been left by Texas, and Florida State finished 5th and Texas finished 4th. I would have not been happy with it. I would have thought it was absurd, but it wouldn't have bothered me nearly as much.
And this is if Georgia would have beat Alabama?
Correct. Yes. Because it is okay to have a playoff without Alabama. It's like it's hard to explain, but like if the Falcons had blown a 28-3 lead to any other team, it wouldn't have pissed me off nearly as much as it did to Tom Brady and Bill Belichick. It had to be that team.
Yeah.
Like if it was the Chargers, I'd have been like, well, that really sucked. We had the Super Bowl, but hey, good for the Chargers. Texas has never been in the college football playoff. So, yes, it would have sucked, but I'd be like, hey, man, good for Texas. And they did have to win some of their games with a backup quarterback. And they have looked really good at the end of the year. And they won at Alabama.
By
so
two scores.
Good for them. Yes, good for them. I'm not saying they deserve it over Florida State, but at least I feel good for that fan base. It's just we got to do this again. Alabama's got to get in. They've been in 8 of the 10 playoffs. They've been in. And I think they've been undefeated in one of them.
Well, I think the 2 ones they probably haven't been in, I think they had 2 losses. Like that's the only thing that will disqualify them. Like 2 losses, we can't overlook it. Like, oh. No.
Right, but that's what bothers me about the Auburn game.
No.
If you think they're better than Florida State, then that loss shouldn't have mattered either. If they would have lost that game. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like they're better, right? So put them ahead of Florida State. They think Ohio State's better. Anyway, and the fact that, like, Florida State was number 3 and beat a better team than Texas did. And yet Texas leapt up 4 spots. Like, if Jordan Travis was going to be the issue, why wasn't Florida State 6th last week? Why were they 3rd?
Well, maybe they were giving them just that shot to see if
or 4th.
2 games with Rodemaker, like maybe
but he didn't
let's
get
see.
Rodemaker. So how do you make a decision?
What
you didn't get to, you know what I mean? You didn't get to see Rodemaker.
Well, here's kind of doubling back to this is not fair, and it's Stephen A. Smith, who's obviously an important part of the ESPN machine, but he's not dialed into
their college football guy.
Not at all, but he did tweet, and pardon me, there's maybe a little bit of modicum of truth there, but it's not fair. Like, it's like TCU's fault, kind of, to a certain degree, because of what happened last year. Like they were not one of the 4 best teams in the country, but man, they deserved it. They held on, they fought their asses off and won a bunch of games. And then they end up getting like their heads kicked in the national title game.
But they beat Michigan.
Yeah, no, hey, I'm with you. I'm not agreeing with it fully, but like I can see that part of it. Like, you listen, that guy that you retweeted, Matt Miller, who's one of their top draft analysts now that they don't have Todd McShay any longer. He was the one that's like, nobody wants to watch Florida State get their heads kicked in by Michigan by 40.
Yeah,
like that's. That sort of precedent that TCU set was like, maybe that's going to fall in Florida State without having Jordan Travis. Like, we can't risk having a team in this year where there's all these other 1-loss teams that have shown themselves to be capable. Texas, Georgia, although Georgia got left out. Like, we don't want to let Florida State ruin this party.
But the party always sucks. This thing has been going on for 10 years. How many times have there been 3 highly competitive, highly entertaining college football playoff games?
I feel like this is the year, but I think it would have been the year with Florida State too. I think Florida State would have been able to hang like you said with anybody. I like these teams.
I do too, but the previous 9 times, it's happened 0 times.
Yeah, there's been stinkers.
There's always a dud. Yeah. There's always an egg. That can't be. You let Cincinnati in, man. Cincinnati got to play Alabama. Like, what was that? Yeah. Like that was just 2 years ago, and so. And it's going to be funny in May when, I don't know, man, 8, 9, 10 Florida State guys get drafted. None of them will be named Jordan Travis, probably. And then yet, the guy that wasn't drafted is the reason all these other draft picks didn't get to play for the championship. And I hope that's not the case, Jordan. I hope you get picked in the 2nd round, man. I hope you have a long professional career. I just think, obviously, with the injury, people are going to be, a little bit dubious about when he could play again, but I hope it's soon. Also, Florida State should have the whole time been like, you know what? It looked really bad, right? Like his foot was facing the wrong direction. Yeah. He's day-to-day.
Listen.
He's day-to-day. He could be available. He's got screws in there. Everything's looking good. He should be available for January 1st.
Listen, I'm sorry, I respect everybody's time here. I don't want to waste time on hypotheticals, but one of my friends brought this up in a group chat. Say he tore his ACL, but we didn't know it was the ACL. We just knew that he sprained his knee. And we kept getting he's day-to-day, he's week-to-week, he's getting better, he's making significant progress. I know you're a cynic that you thought that this was, the wheels are in motion. Maybe if Jordan was around, they still don't make it in. But I certainly think, Florida State's in if Jordan Travis is healthy. And I think that maybe even that ruse, like, listen, I think that kept Utah up in the polls for a certain amount of weeks, was that the Cam Rising game time decision, he's coming around, he's week to week. And then finally, like, once they lost their second game, it's like, yeah, we're shutting him down. And then everything kind of came toppling down. I think if they were nebulous and vague about Jordan's injury and were like, yeah, he's week to week, we think he'll be ready for the playoff, I think they probably get in. Which is ironic because Norvell hates talking about injuries.
Yes,
but
obviously
you couldn't hide this one though. Yeah.
Well, you could have tried. Nobody was watching the CW. CW wasn't going to let you hide the replay. Yeah. But yeah, you could have just been like, Jordan, cool it with the Instagram from your hospital bed. Right. Say you're straight. Tell everybody you're straight. You're good to go. And yeah, maybe that helps. I mean, obviously, like I said, the foot was in the wrong direction. That wasn't a great looking injury, but hey, modern medicine, right? Hell, how long did it take Utah's quarterback to come back? He was week to week for the whole season. You could have just played that game, but yeah, man, there's probably some validity to that. But yeah, man, it goes against. I brought it up in my column. Maybe about Acuna being off the team. Acuna getting hurt in July of 2021. He's the best player in the sport. He gets hurt. And for some reason, the National League still allowed the Braves to compete in the postseason. And the Braves still, without their best player, won a championship. I know baseball is different than football. I know right field is different than quarterback. Okay, what about the Eagles, man? The Eagles lost their starting quarterback and then won the Super Bowl. Things happen.
The Giants, Super Bowl 25, Phil Simms was out. Jeff Hostetler.
Why did they even play?
I don't know.
Why did they even suit him up? Because Phil Simms was their star, and he didn't get to play. How are they possibly going to beat the high-flying Bills? Like, again, we lose sight of what makes sports great, and it is stuff like that. It is the team that's the underdog by 12 points or 9.5 like Washington was, showing that they can win. Florida State would not be picked to win. I certainly wouldn't expect them to beat, like, say, Michigan and Alabama back-to-back with Tate Rodemaker. I would have loved to see them get the opportunity to try because they did absolutely everything necessary to get that chance. And it was taken away from them because of backdoor politicking, in my opinion, about TV. I don't know if it's TV money or I don't understand it. I don't understand why the people on that committee feel beholden to SEC and to ESPN. Clearly, it seems like they are. And I think we could have survived a playoff without Alabama. Or Texas, for that matter. I keep harping on Alabama because they were the 4. And I keep coming back to the Auburn game. But Texas was lucky to beat Houston, who just fired its coach. They got a crazy spot, or they lose to Houston. I don't know that Florida State had a moment like that. I know they barely beat Boston College, but they were up on that game 31-10, and there wasn't like one play that Boston College got screwed on.
The closest thing was the Clemson game. Like Clemson had it with a 35-yard field goal or something.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, that's as close as they came. So you could say they got lucky there, for sure. But that was their only element of luck, and it happened to be in Death Valley.
2 months ago.
It was in Death Valley, man. Yeah. It wasn't against Houston. Yeah. So yeah, I get why. What was cool about it was for the last week we've just been inundated with. Well, does Florida State really deserve it over Alabama? And ESPN was making that case over and over and over again that Alabama deserved it or Alabama should be in because Jordan Travis isn't playing quarterback. But what happened after it actually happened was they felt the true brunt of how idiotic that was. I think they don't care. They're still going to count their money. But it was obvious immediately how people that know sports and people that just maybe outside of the bubble of college football a little bit look at something like this and realize how just completely idiotic it is and unfair, but idiotic. Like I had buddies that don't really follow college football that much texting me, be like, "Wait, what? But Florida State didn't lose a game, right?" And I'm like, "No, Alabama did. Yeah, and almost lost 2 other ones." What? And when you take a step back and look at it. It didn't blow up in their face because they don't care. But immediately the backlash, I guarantee you, was much more swift and severe than they ever would have thought. They don't care, again, but it's more swift and severe than they ever would have thought because it is absolute horse blank. Well,
look at you self-censoring yourself 30 minutes later.
Censoring myself now. But it is, and they realize it. And it bothers me that somebody like Herb Street would get on there and talk about how Jordan Travis matters. Man, Herbie, you were a backup, man, for a while. He started at Ohio State, but he didn't start as a freshman. So if Ohio State would have lost whoever the starter was when Herbie was a backup, would he be there saying we don't deserve to play Michigan? Or we don't deserve to go to this bowl because we can't compete? No, man. It's athletics. It's competition. You earn it on the field. And Florida State was lined up 13 games, the last 2 without their star quarterback. And without their star quarterback, their defense, to me, looked like the best defense in the country. Braden Fisk and Jared Verse earned a right to play in the college football playoff. They earned it, and it was taken from them.
Yeah.
Braden Fisk, by the way, holy moly.
Braden, once we get this lawsuit going or whatever, against whatever powers to overturn this, hopefully, we're going to get you that ACC championship MVP. Sorry, Lawrence.
Yeah.
Keep 2 hands on that thing, Lawrence.
Yeah,
I love you,
right.
but we got to give that to Braden. It's incredible. But yeah, my buddy was saying he was at a cheer competition for his daughter and just wearing Florida State gear, repping to the day he dies, and just like 7 or 8 random dads were just like, "Hey man, like I'm sorry, I can't believe what happened to you guys. It's incredible. Like, didn't you guys win last night?" My mom, God love her, every Sunday for the last 19 games, texts me like, "Go FSU, so happy for you guys," with a bunch of cute emojis. I still don't know how to tell her that, like, yeah, we won, but we didn't.
Yep.
We didn't.
Yep. Yeah, that's it's not how it's supposed to be.
No.
And what's funny is all throughout Saturday, people were tweeting and talking about, man, there's a lot of interested people in Austin, in Tuscaloosa, watching this Florida State-Louisville game tonight, rooting for the Cardinals. It's like, didn't matter. They should have just gone out and enjoyed their Saturday night instead of watching that. Like, what did it matter? It did not matter what happened in that game. Why did Florida State even win it? What was the point? Why did they play? It did not matter if they won or lost that game. They were not going to play for the national championship, which is insanity. And now they get Georgia.
We waited a long time to bring up, almost as long as Ira and Corey waited to bring up Vitamin Energy on the Warchant rap at the Bank of America Stadium after the 16-6 ACC championship victory. But we're going to talk about them now because, golly, they support us and they shoot. I mean, they literally support us. I took the Immune Plus with me up to Charlotte because I knew the weather was going to be a little bit wacky. And I don't know, I just had a little motivation, Corey. I'm like, this is championship week. I'm going to prepare like a champion. I've worked out twice in Charlotte. I went and got a day pass at one gym and then a day pass at another gym. And I took the half shot on Friday of the Immune Plus, and I took the half shot on Thursday when I arrived as well to get me through my workouts. Stuff works, and it was the Immune Plus, so I also had the peace of mind that I had the nutrients and vitamins of vitamin C to give me protected from maybe getting a cold or the sniffles or whatever's out there right now. VitaminEnergy.com is energy with benefits, nutrients, antioxidants. It is the world's first and only clinically proven energy shot. We tell you to give it a shot. Use that promo code WARCHANTBOGO, WARCHANT, BOGO. You'll buy one item, you'll get one for absolutely free, equal lesser value. Knock it out. Help out some Noles. Get a whole bunch of stocking stuffers for everybody in the office, or just stock up your desk. It's good stuff. I assure you of it. Try it, shake it, and take it. VitaminEnergy.com, promo code WARCHANTBOGO. Also, I forgot one of our guys in Carolina said that he's over the age of 60, and for me to warn people to only take half of the shot.
There you go.
Hey, which I do, man. Hey, I'm 41. Yeah. I take half the shot. So 260 milligrams of caffeine. It'll do it to you, folks. Shake it and take it. VitaminEnergy.com, promo code WARCHANTBOGO. Corey, we met so many people in Charlotte. I want to shout out a bunch of them because I literally just kept kind of like pausing throughout the night and typing their names in.
Okay, good.
Maybe we'll do that here in a second, but like I feel like I'm okay. Like I'm
I know
upset.
where you're going. Keep going with this because that's what I wanted to talk about too. Go for it.
Well, yeah, maybe not. Now I feel there's pressure on me to go to some path, but I mean, the people that showed up to this Charlotte Seminole Club, which by the way, awesome party. Everybody came out.
It's great.
Incredible. Yeah. Chiefs are out there. I mean, there was, alumni reps from Dallas and all across the country that came in for this event. So just to see the passion that people had. I mean, everybody pulling out their phones when the Chiefs showed up. I'm like, man, I'm so happy for all of them that stayed in that mist and the rain that came down in Charlotte and watched that game. Like, all right, man, you guys have validated coming out here, watch your team play for this championship, win it, and now you're for sure going to the college football playoff. And to know that, like, they're robbed of these memories that, like, I have, that you have, of going to national title games, of going to a college football playoff. And then the players, too, man. I mean, we've spent so long here. And I thought that was the great part of your column course, how you talked about, like, this is not a tragedy, but it is a travesty. Yeah. But for the football players in their football lives, like an absolute tragedy. And to see like Trey Benson laugh almost when they made the announcement and they had that reaction shot of Norvell and some of the players, and it just go from this like this laughing of like, you can't, like, that's a joke, right? Like, this is not real, to like it hitting him and all the sacrifices these guys have made, whether it's like deferring on their NFL dreams, or you see Trey Benson with a heating pad or something on his knee every time the defense is on the field to get better and get back out there to help his team out, and they don't get this opportunity is crazy. Is such an injustice, dude, and I don't know what can be done. I hope there's some kind of movement that can be kind of grassroots that doesn't give Florida State fans a UCF vibe. I don't know how I feel about these like lawsuits and boycott the bowl game stuff, but hopefully something to really just show the support that everybody has for this team. But yeah, you folks out there that show for all these games and travel and pay all this money, man, I heard for you.
Well, and, we've gotten to know more of that since we started this show, and especially since they've been good. We've obviously met a lot of people through this, and Stephanie has gone to a lot of these games where, in the past I was just I'd show up the night before a game, go to the hotel, show up to the game. I wouldn't be part of it. You know what I mean? But with Stephanie and I having so many more friends now, just coming to these games and going to these events, like the Friday night event we had, the Saturday event we had in Orlando, really starting in New Orleans last year. But you think about Brian Kelly's reaction when he walked onto the field in Orlando. It's like, oh, this isn't going to be neutral at all. To what happened at Wake Forest when you took over half the stadium, to the fact that you sold out 4 straight home games, including one over Duke, maybe 5 if North Alabama was a sellout.
It was.
So you finished the season with 5 straight sellouts. The War Chant and the Marching Chiefs dominated the Swamp. And then you had all those people in Charlotte for what amounted to a meaningless game, which is insanity. Well, it isn't. They won an ACC championship. They do get to hang a banner. They are ACC champs again. They did bring a trophy back home. It wasn't meaningless, but it's just not as meaningful as we thought it was. But that whole journey of the last year, really 2 years, but this last year, that's what the fans, this is a great fan base that had been put through the ringer for about a decade. Really 2 decades. They had a nice little pocket there with Jimbo, but there's been a lot of down and mediocre in the last 2 decades. This is such a likable, lovable team. And what they did when their best player got hurt, to go out and play like that again, on defense, for them to have to watch a mustachioed 19-year-old who was throwing it to the wrong team and did not look ready for the moment, be your quarterback in the biggest game of the year, and you still win because you have really good players all over the field, not just at quarterback. Man, they deserve more than this. They deserve better than this, man. They just did, and that's what I'm saying. You left this fan base out and those players. For Alabama, for the New York Yankees, they get another shot at a ring. Awesome. What a wonderful sport you've created. And so that's what it bothers me that it happened to the fans and the players that have been through so much, really the last 2 years, but then, like I said, the last 2 decades. And it bothers me who it was done for. So Nick Saban could get another ring. Great, man. That's awesome. We really do appreciate that. Congratulations on the 4th and 31. You guys clearly deserved it. And yeah, so when it comes to that and when it comes to the fans, I just feel bad for them, clearly. But I don't want this to it doesn't dismiss the entire season. This has been an awesome season, and I hope that doesn't get lost, and I don't think it will. I think this, more than anything, guarantees that this is an all-time memorable Florida State team. It does, because there was an injustice done to this team. But this team, through everything, did exactly what it had to do to get to where it needed to be, to win a championship, to win 19 games in a row, coming from the depths that they came, is just I just don't want us to lose sight of that. Over this injustice, that we forget all the great times that this team gave you, which was plenty. It hurts now. I don't even know if hurt is the right word. I don't know if it's sad or anger. I think I'm still clearly in the anger category. But I also want, when it all goes away, realize what this team meant to this program, what this team meant to this fan base. Orlando still happened, man. I know people want you to forget it. You held Jaden Daniels to 17 points. That did happen. Death Valley happened. Keon made that catch. Kalen DeLoach made that play. The Duke game, the Miami game, the Florida game, the injury. Then Brock Glenn and Jared Burson, that all happened. And I hope that gets appreciated and remembered. I think it will. I think weirdly, say the alternative is they go out to the Pasadena and lose 27-17. I think this team now gets remembered more for this. This helps in the lasting legacy of this Florida State team because they busted their ass every day for 4 years, really, and became one of the best teams in the country and earned a chance to get to the playoff. They didn't get it, which is awful and it sucks, but none of that can ever be taken away. They're 13-0, man. I just hope it gets remembered the way it should.
Weird question, weird segue. I know Kalen DeBoer's not a sexy name, but I feel like the country saw enough from Washington. I mean, they should have seen enough from Florida State. But the fact that it's like Harbaugh, it's Sark, it's Saban, it was Kirby. Like, is there does Mike need to like go dark side and just like embrace like being the heel, like being the enemy of the people or something? Because I feel like there's something that's lacking from this, and it's not a fair like assessment, but like Nick wasn't going to get left out, right?
Well,
like,
I can promise you Nick wouldn't get left out if he was undefeated.
And I get it, man. He's won, 6 national championships. Like, I wonder at what point, like, can Florida State get some real respect? And I know everyone loved Jordan Travis, right? But I feel like they love Jordan Travis now that he's not playing a lot more than when he was playing.
Yup.
So some certain aspect of like, and listen, man, I was guilty of it too. I'm like, man, Mike Norvell doesn't really come from an impressive pedigree. Like, he comes from the Todd Graham tree, which is not, very bountiful. But man, like, this guy's a legitimate ball coach. Like, he's turned this program around. I know he did it through the portal, which might be looked down on by some people maybe in that committee. But everybody else, I mean, listen, Michael Penix is a transfer quarterback. Bo Nix was a transfer quarterback. Louisville injected their entire roster pretty much through the transfer portal, and Jeff Brom was a feel-good story. I just wonder if there's going to be some kind of inflection point here where Mike Norvell can get the sort of cachet and the gravitas to not get like trampled on like this way. Because Andrew Adelson tweeted out something about like Florida State just got treated like they're a Mountain West team.
Yeah,
and that's the bizarre thing.
I don't think that's the head coach, though. I think that's the conference. I think that's more a shot at the conference. I don't think it matters who the head coach is.
Yeah, but Dabo, you think Dabo? I mean,
I look, Jimbo won a national championship with an all-time great team. In the next year, he was looking up at 2 one-loss teams.
True.
It's happened twice in the history of college football that an undefeated Power 5 team has been passed over by one-loss teams. 2014 and 2023. So, yeah, it's mostly the conference. And I don't know what you can do about that other than leave it, which, again, if this doesn't expedite it, then nothing will. This is kind of what everybody was complaining about back in August, all you North Carolina media folks. This kind of thing right here. So, yeah, I don't think it's the – and look, man, I think it was funny watching the Kirby Norvell interview, which was, you feel – both of those guys have to act like they're excited to play in the Orange Bowl, which is, it's
Kirby did a better job of it.
He did. He clearly did. But also, you talked about how he appreciated that it was talking about how hard it is to go undefeated. He also did mention nobody's finished 5th or 6th more than we have. We've done it like 2 or 3 times. It's like, yeah, buddy, you never finished below a team with a worse record ever. Yeah. Florida State just did, so it's not apples to apples, Kirby. We get it. We know you felt pain before, but you lost to teams with better. You were left out with teams with equal or better records. You were never left out with a team with a worse record like Norvell has. So it's not apples to apples. But yeah, so when you look at Kirby, man, like they were number 1 in the country. They lost essentially by a field goal on a neutral field, and now they don't get to play either. Like, it's just a dumb sport. But clearly, wouldn't we say Alabama deserved it over Georgia? Do we think Alabama's a better team than Georgia, Aslan?
I do not know.
I don't either. They're in because they beat them. You know what I mean? So, Alabama and Florida State had one common opponent this year. Florida State beat that opponent a lot worse than Alabama did on a neutral site. Although, no, again, not really neutral. But yeah, I just think that, I don't know. I don't even know where I was going with that. I just thought it was – having them talk about how excited they are to be in the Orange Bowl when clearly Kirby Smart ain't excited to be there. He thinks they should be in.
Yeah.
They went from number 1 to number 6 with a 3-point loss. And Florida State won a game by 10 points as the number 4 team, I guess, and dropped out completely. So who knows, man? It's all. I do think it helps next year that it's 12 teams, and you can earn your right into it. But as my friend Jim Lamar posted, next year it's going to be the talk will be, are we really putting a 4-loss Tennessee team in ahead of a 2-loss Kansas State team? And yeah, you are. This is going to keep going. It's going to keep going. The SEC is going to have, I would say the SEC and the Big Ten will have 10 of the 12 next year, or 9 of the 12. And that's for the foreseeable future. A 4-loss SEC team, in the committee's eyes, will always trump a 2-loss team from any other conference. And so you might want to get out of the conference. If you can't beat them, join them. Problem is, Florida State did beat the SEC twice. They're 4-0 against them in their last 4. Doesn't matter. What was the SEC's best non-conference win this year, Aslan? Do you know?
I don't know. Tennessee beating Virginia?
Kentucky beating Louisville.
Oh, yeah.
That's it. And that Kentucky team gave up 31 to Louisville. Apparently, the Cardinals could play Florida State for 14 quarters and not score a touchdown. And that's another thing, man. We should be sitting here celebrating that defense. We barely talked about it, but we barely talked about it. That was an all-time performance by that defense. Because that Louisville team is not terrible, folks.
Yeah. That's the closest to a shutout you're going to get in 2023 against a team that's not Iowa. That's legitimately the worst offense in the country, Iowa. So, you can shut out Iowa. But in this day and age, Chip Baker would give Adam Fuller spike baseball after Saturday night.
But that was a dominant performance against a team with an experienced quarterback, a pretty decent offensive line, 2 good running backs, 3 really, and some good wide receivers that had scored over 30 points in 4 straight games, had scored over 30 points in 8 games on the season, and you held them to 2 field goals. Even though they had 15 possessions. There was a ton of possessions in that game, and Louisville scored 2 field goals because they could not block your guys. It was just an all-time great defensive performance. It was really fun to watch. The portal opens up by the time you're listening to this.
That's right, yeah.
I know the Battle's Inn had a lot of new members join on Sunday, and all I can say is you don't let this ruin your fandom for Florida State. I get that you're upset, and this isn't a PSA for Battle's End or the Seminole Boosters, but don't let this travesty, which is what it is, ruin your fandom for this team. I get that you're obviously frustrated with the sport.
Hey, you're jaded right now. We get it.
You're disenfranchised with the sport. But
disillusioned.
This is still your team. And they are back. They are back. They're not back enough to be in the top 4, apparently. If Jordan Travis was here, they'd be the 1. But they are back. They have won 19 games in a row, and they've got to keep this momentum going. And this is a huge month to that end because the signing day is in 16 days, and the portal opens today. So we'll see.
Last question, Corey, before we celebrate all the awesome people that came out on Friday night to Resident Culture. Red herring or relevant? The Jim Phillips was part of that alliance that kind of created a little bit of a firewall to keep the playoff at 4 teams this year. Is that something that's worth lamenting, or is that crying over spilled milk at this point? I thought the comment or whatever, his statement that he released, I don't know how sincere it was, but I thought it was pretty strongly worded and seemed like he went to bat for Florida State. But again, I don't know how sincere it was, but any kind of lingering resentment or looking back on that moment where, he used it as a bargaining chip to get, the ACC some kind of revenue concession, which never really ultimately came. But seemingly one of those commissioners that tried to, be funny, and not funny, but, try to look out for the best interest of his conference ended up kind of shooting themselves in the foot because 12-team playoff right now with the way it's going to be constructed with your 6 highest-ranked conference champions, Florida State's in, And
for sure, but would they be the 5? I think Florida State would be if there was a 12-team playoff right now, Florida State would be 3rd. I think.
No, they'd be fourth. Or like,
No, they'd be third. They'd be the third. There'd be 3 undefeated teams. It'd be Michigan, Washington, Florida. Because they wouldn't care if Alabama wasn't in the top 4. They're still in. Everybody can still wave their pom-poms. Alabama's still in. Texas is still in. Georgia's still in. But Florida State would have earned the bye by being undefeated and in the top 4. If it was the same, but if you do think about it, if it was the same exact rankings as it is now, and again, how is Florida State behind Alabama ahead of Georgia? It makes no sense. But Florida State would be hosting who? Liberty? In a playoff game, right? I think that's right. Like
correct. It is.
The next 4 seeds host a home playoff game. Well, that would be kind of cool. So, yeah, in hindsight, it sucks that Florida State still doesn't get to compete for a national championship. But I think that takes the onus off this selection committee who just screwed Florida State. Yes, it would be awesome if Florida State was the 5 or the 8 or the 3 in a 12-team playoff. But that doesn't get the heart of the matter is it's a 4-team playoff this year, and Florida State got screwed. There's 5 conference champions. 3 were undefeated. Pick one of the other 2 to be the 4th. It's pretty effing simple. And I would say that even if Tate Rodemaker lost an arm and it was Brock Glenn, I don't know. Would we want to watch that again in Pasadena? Probably.
I would love to. Just his reactions on the sideline where he was just seemingly won a contest to be the starting quarterback for Florida State.
He's like, isn't this awesome?
Yeah.
Isn't this cool, man? Jordan Travis is coming over and talking to me. I get to wear a headset. I get to talk to Tony during a game. This is really neat. Yeah. So, but yeah, I would say that no matter what the quarterback situation is. So, yeah. But again, you're losing a lot of dudes. We will get into it later in the week and later on in the month. I can't even possibly fathom who is going to play in the Orange Bowl. I couldn't imagine.
I think a bunch are, man. Maybe I'm in the minority. I don't think Keon put something on Instagram late Sunday that kind of made it sound like a farewell. You'd almost feel guilty having Jared Verse play with how much he has awaiting him in the future. But I think that's a guy that wants to play with these guys one more time. He wants to be with his teammates. He wants to be on that bus and make that trip with these guys. I wouldn't begrudge anybody for sitting it out, man. This is a gut punch of a moment for a 21-year-old kid. But I think I think most of them are going to play, man. 2.5 over under. I'd take the under.
Oh, I would take the over, but I could be wrong. I just think, and that's nothing against the culture of this program. I think some of these guys, you would just be so disillusioned with the sport. No. You're like, wait, I'm going to do another 15 practices, these practices, and then go play that team and risk a potential for what? Like, I just did that for 13 weeks and for nothing. So why would I do it again? Like, I can see some real disillusionment. And again, I don't blame them at all. Like, I wouldn't blame Verse or Fisk or Keon or Johnny. Like, especially like Keon and Johnny that have had some injury issues. Like, I wouldn't blame them at all for saying, no, I've sacrificed enough and we didn't even get rewarded for it. Now you want me to go do it again when I'm 5 months away from being a millionaire? No. And so I think it's going to be really interesting. I would assume, because they put so much into doing this, Aslan. They put so much into doing it, and they did everything they were asked to do, and they still don't get to take part in it. I could see them, maybe even out of protest, but I think mostly out of, self-preservation and future paychecks, sitting this one out.
Yeah, we'll see. I think guys will enter the portal, but I think the guys that have those NFL aspirations, man, I think a lot of them are going to play. But we'll see.
Hope so.
We'll see,
I hope so. If Florida State and Georgia play with their capable bodies, if they all play like man to man and nobody opts out, that should be a heck of a game.
I think there's maybe a line out there somewhere like 9.5 or so, but MyBookie's formulating their line. So in the meantime, go over to mybookie.ag and check out the live casino. You can also bet on the national champion, even though you're absolutely heartsick and want nothing to do with the rest of the college football world right now. Michigan plus 180 to win it. They have the shortest odds. Washington at plus 650. They're the long shot of the bunch. Michigan favored by 1.5 against Alabama in the Rose Bowl. Right? They're playing the Rose Bowl. That's going to be in Pasadena, I think, those two, correct?
Yep.
And then Texas and Washington in New Orleans. That's going to be a fun game for those folks. I'm jealous. And I shouldn't be. Should be out there myself, but Texas giving out 4.5. So do with that as you will. 46 points, Michigan, Alabama. Maybe take the under on that one, but who knows? Maybe J.J. McCarthy will figure out a way to play quarterback at a really high level. Everyone keeps saying he can. We're just waiting on it. MyBookie.ag, promo code is WARCHANT. Get an instant cash deposit bonus of up to 110%. So robust that they're not even advertising it out there for the public. They just let us do it on our podcast. So use the promo code WARCHANT over at MyBookie.ag where you can bet anything, anytime, anywhere. Just want to say thanks again, Corey, to everybody who came out Friday to Resident Culture. I've got a long list, Corey, so I'm just going to rattle them all off here. In no particular order, Don and Mary Beth, Steve, Ralph and Sean, Marty, Vince, Leslie, our guy Kyle, get down or lay down. Sabaxley, whose name I still don't know, although he's always out here, is from Dothan, my guy. Mike from South Florida, Colin, Jeff, Parker, Clark, Frank, Tim, the guy that was talking to me while I was having my tacos that Mike gave me, who works for the Charlotte Seminole Club or volunteers for. Great tacos. Mike saved my life. I get really grumpy when I don't eat, so thanks for that. The guy that was talking to me from Charlotte, he was a native, Corey, had his awesome starter jacket. Looked great.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Brandon, who we talked about punk rock music for about 15 minutes. Nick from Lakeland, who was with his girlfriend. They're adorable. Tim, who smokes his turkeys and splatching cocks it now or something like that, which I don't know. It's a term. You cut the turkey like in half, and then it reduces the time in cooking it. He was an amazing dude.
Okay.
Noel, who I guess is dad and is apparently a Florida State fan because his middle name's Noel. Missy, who says that I actually have a female following out there, Corey, which I don't believe. I think she was trolling me.
No way. Missy wouldn't do that.
Burke, or I think his name was Tim, and this one hurts because he says he listens to us every single day on his walks in Columbia, South Carolina. So you're listening to this right now, and I hope your name was Tim, but if not, the guy that's walking in Columbia, South Carolina, listening to Corey and I, we love you. Scott and Denise, Phil, Ben, Josh from Seattle, two Ryans, Mike, Chris, and Eric, Alex, Scott from Gainesville, Kyle and Tiffany, Ernesto, Orlando, who's from Tampa, Mike and Justin, CJ, some dude from Orlando who said I told him to bet the over on targets or yards received for Keon in the LSU game, and he took it and won money.
Okay.
You're welcome. And also Jesus.
Oh. All right.
Whose girlfriend talked to me in line. She's like, hey, are you Aslan on the podcast? I'm like, yes. And then she grabs him and pushes him. She's like, go talk to them. It's funny how many guys do that. Like, they don't want to come say hi, so they make their girlfriends, like, break the ice. It's all right, guys.
Or their kids. Sometimes they use their kids.
Yeah.
But, hey, we appreciate it, guys. You can we're human beings. We put our pants on one leg at a time like everybody else. We just make podcast magic after we do it.
We try.
We try anyway. But, yeah, so everybody I'm horrible with names. You guys know who you are that I met and talked to. But it is very, very appreciated that people are so kind. And, again, this is a community, and it's growing. And Norvell, well, Warchant has some to do with that, but Norvell has the most to do with it because he's built this program up where people are excited, and they are doing the Warchant Inside Resident Culture at 8 o'clock after watching the soccer team win. By the way, they play for the national championship tonight, everyone, against Stanford. So hopefully they can and they got to earn it on the field. I don't know if they had any injuries this year, but they were still allowed to play and look at them. But, yeah, it's just so appreciated how much this Warchant community, and I know not everybody was there for Warchant, but a lot of people, so many people come up and tell us what we mean to them and how we get them through their days or how we start their mornings. And I'm always appreciative. Don't ever hesitate to come up and say hello. We never get tired of hearing it, and we really, really do appreciate it. Stephanie loves it. She feels like a celebrity.
Yeah, well said. Hopefully we'll do something down in Miami or Fort Lauderdale. We'll see if it
What's the
comes to
point?
fruition.
What's the point? No, we'll do something in Ireland. I'm done. I don't want to do anything with this season anymore.
We'll see what the schedule holds for Florida State as they get ready for the Orange Bowl. That will be December 30th, 4 p.m., weird kickoff time.
Weird, yeah. What's that about?
Apparently, Monday is Christmas or New Year's Eve. Yeah, that would make more sense. Monday is New Year's Eve, and the NFL's having, instead of having their Monday night game on New Year's Eve, they're going to have their Monday night game Saturday at 8 p.m. after the Orange Bowl.
Oh.
So we're the lead-in.
Great. Perfect.
This brand, good enough to lead in for the NFL and the most prized property in ESPN's portfolio, but maybe not their playoff. So whatever. I'm not over it, but we're kind of over it.
We'll never be over it. I don't
we'll
think.
Never be over it. Yeah.
We really won't. I'm never going to accept it, but we'll move on. But it'll always be just something that we talk about. Hopefully when we're alive 30 years from now, we'll talk about how the 2023 team got screwed because that's exactly what happened.
As Corey said, the transfer portal opened at midnight. So check out warchant.com. Michael Langston, Matt Lucero have you covered on the comings and the goings and what's out there and the targets. And Jeff Cameron, Tom Lang on the Jeff Cameron Show will let you know what the Battle's End is up to and how they're trying to get this thing rolling and keep it rolling because, yeah, it's real. It's tangible. This program's not going away anytime soon, no matter what 12 people in a room in Grapevine, Texas want to say. I think it's 12 people. Who knows? 12 jurors. Maybe we should make some sort of spoof film about that. Isn't that like a
12
famous
Angry
movie?
Men?
12 Angry Men, yeah. Maybe we do some sort of spoof
12
on that.
Dumb Idiots? How about
Working
that?
title. It's just a working title, everybody. Jeff Cameron Show, 1 to 3 o'clock. Warchant.com. Transfer portal updates around the clock. He's Corey Amazon. Thanks so much for listening to Wake Up Warchant, presented by Corner Pocket Bar and Grill.